Welcome into our Week 4 matchup between the Portland Treeckos and Buffalo Bouffalants here in Week 4 of the Victory Road League. Buffalo coming in with a 0-3 record and sitting at 4 points total. Portland dropping down to 1-1, looking to bounce back, and they stayed at 10 points last week. So they look to not only bounce back, but also get points in this week's matchup, which they failed to do so last week. As our trainers get prepared and get ready for their matchup here. And we are underways between Portland and Buffalo here in Week 4 of the Victory Road League. And for Buffalo, they're going to send out that Blaze Tauros as well as Palafin. For Portland, they're going to send out their Mimikyu and Venusaur. The Tauros' Intimidate is going to knock down Mimikyu and Venusaur's attack stat by 1. Buffalo coming in as the heavy underdog in Portland, the heavy favorite here in this matchup. And there is Palafin with a flip turn, going to be able to take down Mimikyu's Disguise. And of course, once that Palafin, comes back into battle, they will be in that 0 to hero mode, which will be pretty huge for Buffalo here to start. And they're going to send out their Auroras with that snow warning. So that snow is going to kick up for 5 turns. And there's Tauros with a flamethrower onto the Venusaur. The Venusaur going for a Petal Dance onto the Tauros does a decent amount of damage, leaving it with 64% of its health. And the Mimikyu is going to set up Trick Room here. Of course, Buffalo coming in with the lowest point total in the entire Victory Road League. Portland, an unexpected moment of getting 0 points last week. And there's the Mimikyu with the Phantom Force. So they're going to vanish and be a little bit of a pain, a thorn, you could say. And there's the Auroras with the Blizzard. The Mimikyu, of course, will avoid the attack. It is going to hit the Venusaur, and it is good. A point for Buffalo is on the board. And Tauros was going to use Flamethrower. The Mimikyu, of course, will avoid the attack. So the Venusaur not able to get much off, but here comes a Basculegion for Portland's side. How does Portland navigate this? Buffalo with an early lead, which is a very rare sign here through the first couple weeks of the Victory Road League. And Basculegion with a Muddy Water, which should be super effective on the Tauros. It is good. And there is a point for the Portland Treeckos, bouncing right back after losing their Venusaur. Mimikyu with the Phantom Force does a little bit decent damage. Aurora's coming in with a Thunder. It is going to hit, and it hits the Basculegion pretty hard, leaving it with 36% of its health. And the Paralyzation is under effect. Basculegion kicking in that Citrus Berry so it can recover a bit of its health here. What does Buffalo send out? Do they resend out that Palafin? They do. Of course, now in that 0 to hero form. A Superman on that field has returned. Portland still at 60% health for their Basculegion, although paralyzed. Mimikyu with a 87% health. The Aurora's sitting at 30%, so the next effect you would think for Portland here is to get rid of that Aurora's. Mimikyu's Quick Claw is going to come into effect here. The Basculegion will be withdrawn here. And the Charizard is coming out for Portland's side. Mimikyu going for a Play Rough. It leaves the Auroras with 13% Auroras going for a freeze dry. Does a decent amount due to that snow being up. Palafin is gonna go for a dive here. So the Aurora is still able to hang on here. Of course, Portland, a team that started off 1-0, had a bye week in week 2, lost week 3, are looking to bounce back here. There is the protect from the Mimikyu. Charizard also going for a protect. So whatever this Aurora's had planned, which was a Thunder onto the Charizard, will not hit. The Palafin going for dive onto the Mimikyu will also not hit due to that protection. And the snow will finally stop. The twisted dimensions of that Trick Room will return to normal here. How does Portland navigate this situation? They used, of course, a protect. If they were to try to use it again, though, of course, that is a 30% chance. That Quick Claw going to kick in for Mimikyu once again. That Phantom Force signature move. Charizard with a Blast Burn onto the Aurora. So another point for the Portland Treeckos here. We're 2-1 here early on. And the Palafin gonna hide back underwater. And Buffalo gonna send out their Sylveon, so they are down to their Palafin and Sylveon. Of course, on Portland's behalf, they have this Charizard, they have the Mimikyu, and of course they have that paralyzed Basculegion in the back. How do they navigate this situation here? Mimikyu's Quick Claw will hit. It's going to use Phantom Force. The Palafin, of course, will avoid the attack. Charizard has to recharge. The Palafin going for dive onto the Charizard. It is good to knock it out. We are knotted up 2-2 apiece. Buffalo coming out swinging. That Sylveon going for yawn onto the Mimikyu. So it'll have a turn to use an attack, but will be drowsy. Of course, that Basculegion that is paralyzed and on a bit of a lower health at 60%. How does Portland navigate this situation for themselves here against Buffalo? And are we possibly going to see Buffalo come out and get their first ever match win here in the Victory Road League? They've picked up 2 points, which is pretty much how many points they've picked up in their last 2 games apiece. They picked up 2 points last week. They picked up 2 points the week before. That protect will kick in for the Basculegion on Portland's behalf. Palafin going for another dive. Sylveon will use a Moonblast onto the Basculegion and it will not hit. And Mimikyu is going to reset up a Trick Room. So we've got 4 more turns of Trick Room now. And that Mimikyu is going to fall asleep. So, Portland's chances of getting this first match in this 3-game set basically is on the shoulders of this Basculegion, unless this Mimikyu somehow finds a way to wake up. Mimikyu still going to be fast asleep. The Basculegion going for Blizzard. Of course, the Palafin will avoid the attack. It will hit this Sylveon and does a decent amount of damage, almost does a 4th with a critical hit. Sylveon going for Draining Kiss, going to get some of that health back onto their Sylveon. They're back up to 90% here. The Palafin going for dive onto the Mimikyu. It is good to knock it out. Buffalo is 1 point away from getting their first ever match set here in the Victory Road League. The shoulders of Portland are the all that remains for Portland's chances is on this Basculegion. Buffalo coming out with a different kind of energy here in week 4 of the Victory Road League. Basculegion going for protect here. Sylveon going for the Moonblast will not hit. The Palafin also going for a Draining Kiss will not hit. The This Palafin has been at 100% the entire battle, has not lost a bit of damage. This Sylveon, of course, used Draining Kiss there, was able to get itself back up to 90%. Sylveon going for a quick attack will drop Basculegion under 50% of health. Basculegion going for a Shadow Ball will hit the Palafin, leaving it with 62%, but that Draining Kiss is going to come back in, leaving Basculegion with 35% and putting Palafin back up to 73%. We have yet to see a 3-game match set here in the Victory Road League this week. Could this be the first of our week? Basculegion going for a Muddy Water, which will hit both this Palafin and Sylveon. Does a little bit of damage on both. Of course, it's going to drop the accuracy of the Palafin. Sylveon will go for a Draining Kiss, leaving Basculegion on 6%, excuse me. Sylveon back up to 92%. The Palafin going for a dive. That Trick Room will return the dimensions back to normal. Buffalo showing they are here to compete. Of course, Basculegion with another Protect against the Sylveon, just trying to last themselves another turn. Palafin with a dive will not hit. Sylveon will use a Yawn, will not hit due to that protection. And it comes down to this turn. Does Portland decide to protect, knowing that is a 30% chance? Or do they decide to just go for it? Buffalo one Pokemon away, and there it is, another point for Buffalo, and they are taking the match here, and they are taking their first ever match win here in the Victory Road League. Welcome back into the Victory Road League Week 4 matchup between Portland and Buffalo. Buffalo getting their first ever match win here in the Victory Road League. Portland on its toes. They were able to snag 2 Pokemon, but couldn't get further than that. That Palafin was able to cause some issues for Portland. How do they bounce back and try to extend this to a 3-game set? For all the marbles, of course, Buffalo with full momentum as the underdog coming into this week. They have momentum on their side and looking for a chance to get their first ever win here. And we are underways here with match set number 2, the Palafin and the Aurora's combination coming out for Buffalo. Mimikyu and Venusaur once again for Portland. And there's that snow, so we will have 5 full turns of snow due to Aurora's snow warning here. Portland looking to bounce themselves back and get a match win here to extend this to a 3-game set. After high expectations there when they got those first couple kills, there's the flip turn coming from the Palafin. Gonna knock down that disguise on the Mimikyu. Of course, they will return back to the battlefield in that 0 to hero mode. And it knocks Mimikyu down at 87%. And there it is. Buffalo will send out their Pidgeot here. Venusaur going for a sleep powder. Gonna put the Auroras to sleep right away. What does this Mimikyu have in store? They're going to set up Trick Room, so we will have 4 turns of Trick Room after this. A very big and bold choice going for that sleep powder to put that Auroras to sleep right away. Buffalo a little bit in a pickle here early on. They were able to get the flip turn off for their Palafin, but how do they navigate this now that their Auroras is asleep? Mimikyu going for a play rough onto the Auroras, knocking it down to 71%. The Auroras is gonna wake up. It's going for freeze dry onto the Venusaur, knocking it down to 26%. Venusaur going for a Weather Ball, which should be super effective onto this Pidgeot, knocking it down to 9%. The Pidgeot here is going to go for Aerial Ace, and that is another point for Buffalo. They're able to get this Venusaur off the field. The Aurora's waking up. Super clutch for Buffalo's side. Arcanine going to be coming out now for the Portland Treeckos, knocking down Aurora's and Pidgeot's attack by 1 due to that Intimidate ability. How does Buffalo keep this momentum up? They have their Pidgeot down to 9%. Your Aurora's woke up and is still sitting at 71%. How can Portland navigate this situation? Mimikyu's Quick Claw going to take effect once again here. And the Arcanine is going to go for extreme speed. So there is a point for the Portland Treeckos. Not out of it just yet. Mimikyu going for a Phantom Force once again. The Auroras will go for Blizzard. Mimikyu will avoid the attack. Due to that snow, it's going to hit the Arcanine just a little bit harder, knocking it down to 80% of its health. Arcanine will recover, though, with some leftovers. 86% is now its remaining health. And they're going to send out that Palafin, of course, super effective here against the Arcanine. So you've got to be careful. You've got the Aurora still on this field, causing trouble for Portland's side. Mimikyu going for a Phantom Force on the Auroras, knocking it down to 32%. A critical hit at that. The Auroras going for another Blizzard. Drops Mimikyu down below 50% health. Arcanine now sitting at 66%. Arcanine going for a Bulldoze, which will hit the Mimikyu, the Auroras, and the Palafin on this field. Mimikyu's speed will fall by 1, but so will the Auroras and Palafin. The Palafin going for dive here. Arcanine's leftovers will kick in here once again, bumping itself back up to 72%. Aurora's down to 11% of health. Mimikyu, the big here, down to 19%. The Mimikyu's Quick Claw will kick in. It's going to go for a Protect here. A very bold choice. The Extreme Speed coming out. It is good enough to knock out the Auroras. So we are knotted up at 2 points apiece here in this second set of our best of 3 matchup. Palafin going for the dive. Will go for this Arcanine. It is good. And another point for the Buffalo Bouffalants here. The snow will finally stop. Those dimensions will return back to normal. This Palafin causing a bit of issues for Portland. And incoming a Charizard. And here's a Tauros for Buffalo's side. So we are down to the last 2 Pokemon that Intimidate is going to hit. We are down to the last 2 Pokemon for both of these squads here. Full momentum is in Buffalo's favor now. You have Mimikyu down to 19%, which would just leave this Charizard on the field. How do these trainers decide to navigate this situation right here? Charizard gonna go for a Protect here. And the Flamethrower is on to the Mimikyu still with 5% of health left. Palafin going for a dive, more than likely going against this Charizard. And the Phantom Force is going to kick in for that Mimikyu. Down to 5% here. You have to believe that Charizard is going to go for an Outrage here onto the Tauros. Isn't going to do much, still with 86%. Tauros going in with a close combat, knocking Charizard down to 60% of its health. Defense and special defense will fall by 1. That special shell bell will kick in for the Tauros. Palafin going for the dive. It is on to the Charizard. And Buffalo is one Pokemon away from getting their first ever win here in the Victory Road League. Palafin gonna get hit with that Phantom Force, down to 54%. All that is stopping Buffalo from its first ever win here in the Victory Road League is this 5% Mimikyu. Buffalo already has picked up more points than they have ever here in the Victory Road League. And that Quick Claw will take into effect. Mimikyu is gonna go for another protection here. Tauros with a flamethrower, not gonna hit. Whatever this Palafin has for, it's gonna go for another dive once again. What does this Mimikyu decide to do here? Can its Quick Claw go into effect? It won't. The flamethrower is gonna knock out the Mimikyu, and Buffalo, you are winners for the first time ever here in the Victory Road League. All right. Folks, we have Miss Kate of the Buffalo Bouffalants. Congratulations on your first ever win. Was that what you were going for? Because I know we had a discussion a couple weeks ago when we faced off.
No, truthfully, I'm disappointed in myself. I was on a great streak, and it's sad to see it broken. But you know, I'm gonna try better next week.
Okay, okay.
I'm letting people down by getting this win.
Well, if you had to name an MVP for your team in this match this week, who would it be?
Oh, gotta be Palafin. I mean, she really came through. Those dives really were critical.
For sure,
Without
for
those,
sure.
That wouldn't have taken out the fire types.
For sure, I agree, I agree. Now, going into next week, I know that we've talked about your ethical tanking methods. You go against a very unique team in Boston, and they use an all-evolution team. You want to give us your thought process going into that, or?
Yeah, like usual, just sort of a zero thoughts kind of thought process.
Okay.
I go into it with the exact same strategy every week, which is do my best, which usually doesn't work at all. And I don't do a whole lot to change it, and by a whole lot, I mean anything at all.
Okay.
And that seems to be working so far for my goal.
Yeah.
Except for today, I'm disappointed, but we're gonna get back at it next week, and I'm gonna do worse. I promise.
All right. Well, you pick up your first win. Although I know you were going for a winless season, but nonetheless,
I know.
Congratulations, and we will see you next week against Boston.
Thank you so much.
All right. That was Coach Kate of the Buffalo Bouffalants. Congratulations to her, even though I know that she was going for more of a tanking season, as I've talked to some of these coaches and their mindsets here as we are through the first month of the season. But GG's to her, GG's to Portland. Portland will look next week to bounce themselves back against the San Diego Drampa. So a tall task, of course, one of our two remaining undefeated teams. And now Boston is the only team here in this league without a win.